Hey, what's going on, man? Coach Tyler here from Black Diamond Softball and Fitness, and we got a brand new episode of the Foul Pole to Foul Pole Daily Show for you. Today is Monday. It is March 4th, and I hope you guys had a great weekend. Today's episode is going to be brought to you by Carolina Patriot Collegiate League. It is a summer softball league for college athletes where you got some incoming freshmen looking to get their first taste at college ball. You've got some other girls that have maybe been in the college game for a while, maybe looking for a new home, maybe in the transfer portal, or just trying to stay sharp over the summertime. Man, this league is going to be something special. It's going to be going on in Fayetteville, North Carolina during the months of June and July. A whole bunch of stuff going on. I'm going to leave a link for it down in the description below. So if you wanted to register, if you wanted to share it with someone that might be interested in it, go check it out. And also, we'll have some ticket details and that kind of stuff and sort of the happenings that will be going on. I'm going to have Wayne Ritchie on here in the future to talk about that. So, man, check that out. That's the Carolina Patriot Collegiate League, and the link is going to be down below. All right, as we get into today's episode, we had an incredible weekend in softball. Saturday and Sunday were absolutely packed with games. So we're going to start with Saturday, a couple of big-time matchups that we had been talking about previously during the week. We had to deal with some of the weather, and some of the games kind of got moved from Friday into Saturday. We had some doubleheader stuff kind of move around, but nonetheless, an incredible weekend. We're going to start with NC State versus Clemson. NC State and Clemson have turned into a rivalry, if you will. Clemson, number 11 ranked team in the country. They probably won't be that this week coming looking ahead, but nonetheless, great game Saturday. You had NC State in that first game beating them 6-1. A great game overall, really fun to watch. If you want to watch some really good offensive games and really juggernaut style defense, man, NC State plays it both sides of the ball really well. Clemson came into it hot. Really playing some good ball, played some big teams, coming into this game. But nonetheless, as we get into sort of the breakdown, NC State jumped out early in the second inning, top of the second, put 6 runs up on the board, and Clemson could not respond. They went blank the rest of the game. Really good defense. Both teams couldn't get a whole bunch going on after that. They could get some runners on, but really couldn't move runners around. So at the end of the day, the pitching was solid. You had Brooke McCubbin, Millie Thompson, and Reagan Spencer pitching for Clemson. After that first inning, or after the second inning, really, where McCubbin struggled just a little bit, Clemson was able to kind of right the ship and take care of the defensive side of the ball after that game. You had Aisha Wexelman, really pitched a great game. She went 6 innings for NC State, only gave up 4 hits, had 3 walks with 5 strikeouts. Really good game. NC State gets the dub, and they move on to game number 2. Now, in game number 2, things were a little bit different as far as how the offense played out. Clemson got things rolling early. They were able to get that win 8-0. They scored 3 in the first. They scored 2 in the third. And then in the bottom of the fourth, were able to score 3. And they ended that game after 5. So Clemson goes 1-1 in the doubleheader with NC State. Valerie Cagle goes 5 innings, only gives up 1 hit, struck out 2. Wyman and Maxton from NC State both went 3 innings and 1 inning, gave up a total of 9 hits, gave up 6 earned, only had 1 walk and only had 1 strikeout. So Clemson was able to kind of come back and get that dub after the fact. But as we move on throughout the country, we can kind of look and see what's going on, man. Georgia had a big-time game against California. I've talked about California quite a bit here on the podcast, but California was able to get that win 7-2 over number 4 Georgia. Really looked good all around. Alabama gets the win over Arizona. Beat that team 1-0. Arizona looked sharp, but just couldn't get enough going on the base path to score any runs. You had Missouri beating Nebraska. You had LSU in a tight game over San Diego State 3-1. Texas A&M, the number 21 team in the country, beats DePaul 10-2. LSU struggled just a little bit against McNeese, got that win 2-1. And some of the games that were canceled, of course, we talked about the Stanford weekend versus Georgia. That game was canceled. Florida State, both of their games against Oregon and Washington were also canceled, but we'll talk about that later on. Alabama, they were unbeaten going into the weekend. South Alabama is able to get that win in sort of what's turned into a great rivalry over the last couple of years. South Alabama is a solid team. I know everybody gives Alabama the love, but South Alabama is right there with them. If you look at the box score, not too much going on for Alabama offensively at all. They were only able to come up with 3 hits, but they only gave up 2 hits. So there was a couple of errors from Alabama that really helped South Alabama get along the way. If you look at the walks, there was only 2 walks from Alabama, so there wasn't too many extra base runners. But, man, an error is absolutely crucial in some big moments in some of these big games like this. So South Alabama gives Alabama their first loss of the season. They beat Alabama 2-1. So SEC had a little bit of trouble this weekend, but, it's softball, right? Any given day. You look at a Baylor that struggled with Morgan State, beats them 4-1. You don't know who's going to show up for these big games, these big days. So it's fun to watch sort of the parity that has become college softball. And Saturday was all about that. Now, if we jump into Sunday, things have changing across softball, really, in general. You had Jacksonville beat Florida State 6-5. You had Clemson get the win over NC State, so they're able to win that season series this year 2-1. So they beat them 14-9. Tennessee struggled a little bit early against Stetson, was able to pull away. South Alabama and Arizona, as a 1-1. That ball game ended in a tie, 1-1 after 11 innings. You had Cal beat Boise State, but it wasn't easy. It was a 6-4 win. Stanford, number 7 team in the country, gets the win over Georgia. So Georgia has sort of fallen back just a little bit. The pack is sort of catching them. And pretty much the game of the weekend has got to be Oklahoma versus Louisiana. The Raging Cajuns, they go to Norman. It's a big-time matchup for them. Louisiana is on the season. They were going into the game 9-12, and they were able to get the dub. Somehow, some way, they were able to jump on them early and sort of do what they needed to do. They were able to keep that offense at bay. Even though Oklahoma was able to get 11 hits on the weekend, they committed 3 errors in this game. So you had 7 runs, 10 hits, and 1 error for the Raging Cajuns. You had 5 runs, 11 hits, and 3 errors for the Oklahoma Sooners. It is their first loss in quite some time. Their record streak is now over. It's been going on for over a year now. So Oklahoma has finally got that monkey off their back. And you look at these undefeated teams, you go back and you look at maybe the Miami Dolphins or the New England Patriots or some teams that have had these long unbeaten streaks. At the end of the day, man, that L is coming. You're not going to be able to go undefeated for the rest of the year. And Patty Gasso had some good comments on that. It's just, she said they didn't play good enough to win that day. They just, started too little too late, and in the critical moments made some errors. But it's a long season. Just because of this loss happens doesn't mean they're not going to be able to get back to the national championship and that kind of stuff. It sort of takes that monkey off their back, if you will. But other than that, this weekend, it was just every game you were watching, you didn't know sort of, who was going to bust out and who was going to get that win. Southeast Missouri State holds Arkansas. Arkansas is able to beat them 6-5. Mississippi State takes care of Samford. Missouri beats Nebraska. California, like I said, barely holds on to beat Boise State 6-4. A lot of good games this weekend. The nightcap was Louisiana Tech and LSU. LSU, neither team could really get anything going early, and LSU on sort of a bloop shot over into right field. It looks to be caught, but in the replay you could clearly see it touch the ground. So both runs score because there's 2 outs and they're running on the pitch, and they're able to get that win like that. And if you guys haven't seen that fan over at LSU, wherever LSU goes, man, Lord of mercy. D'Angelo Sanchez, that dude, he's got the belts, he's got the suit, he's got the bling, he's got it all. He gets the crowd going and stuff like that. I was watching him in the crowd last night. I was watching that game on TV. So he's the OG super fan of softball. So it's pretty cool to see LSU is able to get that dub. So with that being said, we're looking ahead this week. Got some big time matchups this week too. I think as we start to get into conference play, we're going to see some of these teams sort of start pushing towards the front of the conference, and we'll see some big time matchups. We have a huge matchup. You got SEC versus ACC. You've got number 9 Tennessee against number 11 Clemson. That game is going to be on Tuesday. It's at Clemson at McWhorter Stadium. That's a big time matchup. It's a big time game. Looking forward to that one. And as you get into Wednesday and get towards the middle of the week, a couple of big matchups that I'm intrigued by. I like the Duke ECU game. I'm a big fan of ECU because it's not too far from us. I really like that game. I like the Oklahoma State-Wichita State. I think that game will be good. Wichita State is a fun team to watch, and you know Oklahoma State is too. As you move in towards the weekend, Thursday got a couple of big matchups as well. You guys, I'm a big fan of Minnesota. You got a doubleheader at 4 and 6 for Clemson. That is at McWhorter Stadium this week on Thursday. And as you move towards Friday, another big weekend. It seems like every weekend has some big time matchups. So as we move into the weekend, a couple of conference games that are going to be taking place, and you also have some out of conference stuff there. So you have South Carolina and Texas A&M. That's a conference game. You've got Oklahoma State, Baylor. That's a conference. You've got Cal and Oregon. That's conference. Utah, UCLA conference, Arizona State, and Washington as well. So I think my favorite matchup of the weekend is probably going to be the LSU-Kentucky matchup. With that being said, we're getting into conference play, and, man, these teams – who knows? I mean, they could have an off weekend and somebody that, gets a season sweep over somebody, or maybe picks up a dub no one was watching or paying attention to. So keep that in mind. LSU, pretty much the cream of the crop when it comes to SEC play. But once they get into SEC play, are they able to continue to take care of business? How does Alabama respond to losing their first game of the season? How does Georgia respond to having an off weekend? Oklahoma, how do they respond this week? So you really got a lot going on, and it's very, exciting, I guess, if you will. For me, there's just so much to keep up with. So if you want me to keep up with this kind of stuff and kind of give you the weekend updates and that kind of stuff, man, make sure you come back here, check it out. If you know somebody that likes a softball podcast but hasn't found this one yet, please share it with them. And as always, if you share it with a friend, be sure you tell them you love them.